You may not have fully noticed it yet, but something strange has been stirring inside you lately. Life is still moving. You're still showing up, smiling when needed, doing what's expected, but there's a quiet flicker within you that feels dimmer than it used to be. You're not exactly lost, but you can't quite feel that fire you once carried so fiercely. And in those moments of stillness, when no one's watching, a thought floats through your mind. Am I still living true to myself? Or have I drifted too far from who I used to be? If you're a Sagittarius, someone born to chase visions, to light up paths others can't even see yet, then this feeling isn't random. It's not a coincidence. It's the whisper before the awakening. The universe is preparing to send you something small, quiet, and sacred. A moment, a messenger, a child, not just any child, will cross your path. Their presence won't be loud, but their eyes, their energy, will reach the very part of you that you thought was long gone. They won't preach or explain. Just a few simple words. And suddenly, something inside you will remember. If your heart stirs even a little right now, don't brush it off. That's your soul responding. Leave a comment below saying, "I'm ready to return to my sacred fire." And subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the rest of this journey. Now, make yourself a warm cup of tea or your favorite coffee. Settle in, and let me tell you a story that may just change everything you thought you had forgotten. Part 1. The Divine Messenger and the Forgotten Flame. It won't be a grand moment. No lightning in the sky, no dramatic soundtrack playing in the background. In fact, it might happen on a completely ordinary day, the kind where you're running errands, lost in your own thoughts, barely present in the world around you. Maybe you're sitting in your usual corner at the coffee shop, scrolling through your phone, or walking down the street with your mind miles away. And then, it happens. You look up, and you lock eyes with a child. Not just any child, but one whose presence feels strangely out of time. There's something about their gaze that makes everything around you fall silent. They're not doing anything special. Maybe they're just sitting, drawing with a crayon, humming a tune, or playing quietly. But their eyes, clear, steady, and ancient in a way you can't explain, will look straight at you. And in that single gaze, something stirs. It's not a thought, not even a memory, not at first. It's more like a pull, like someone just lit a tiny flame in a room of your soul you'd forgotten existed. You won't know why, but your breath will catch. Your eyes might even tear up without warning. It's a feeling of being seen, not for what you've done, or how strong you've been, or how well you've performed, but simply for being. Then, they'll say something. A few words. Nothing profound. Not even grammatically perfect, but it will land. Like an arrow that flies straight into the center of your being. A part of you that has been sleeping perhaps for years suddenly stirs and whispers, "I remember," because you, Sagittarius, once burned so brightly. You used to walk into rooms lit up from within. Fearless, wild, honest to your core. You believed in big dreams and bigger destinies. You were never afraid to leap, even when no one else understood where you were going. And even when life bruised you, you kept believing in meaning, in purpose, in something beyond. But somewhere along the road, the world got loud. The expectations started stacking up. People told you to be more grounded, more realistic, less intense, less much. So you adapted. You quieted that fire. Not all at once, but little by little. You stopped leaping quite so far. You started questioning your instincts. You laughed a little less freely. And over time, That sacred fire inside you dimmed, not gone, never gone, but hidden, buried, waiting. And now this child, this seemingly random encounter, becomes the spark. They don't know your story. They don't know your heartbreaks, or how many times you've had to start over. They don't know the weight you've carried just to hold everyone else together. But somehow, without a single explanation, they remind you of the version of yourself who once knew without doubt that you were born for something more. Astrologically, this is no coincidence. Your ruling planet, Jupiter, is returning to activate your 4th and 9th houses, 2 sacred zones of memory, truth, and higher meaning. The 4th house governs your roots, your emotional foundations, your inner child. And the 9th house? That's your domain, the house of expansion, belief, wisdom, and spiritual calling. When these houses light up, the universe isn't asking you to go back in time. It's inviting you to remember what was never lost. The truth is, this child is a living symbol. A little prophet in sneakers. They carry the kind of pure presence that doesn't teach with words, but with energy. They are joy without self-consciousness, curiosity without fear, boldness without needing a reason. And when you stand in their presence, something within you aligns. You recognize yourself, the self, before the edits, before the caution, before the masks. You might feel shaken, emotional. You might want to brush it off. That was weird, you'll think. But something will stay with you. Their face, their voice, that unexplainable warmth in your chest, because deep down your soul knows. This was not a coincidence. This was an activation. You're not being called to be someone new. You're being called to be someone true. The version of you who doesn't shrink to fit, doesn't play small to keep the peace, doesn't dim the flame just to blend in. The version who dares to say, I was born to lead, to inspire, to believe even when no one else does. And isn't it just like the universe to send a message so gentle that only the quietest part of your soul can hear it? This child may cross your path only once, but their impact will last forever if you're willing to receive it. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly lit up from within? When was the last time you trusted your own fire more than you feared being misunderstood? Because that fire is still there. And the universe just sent you a spark. Part 2. For Sagittarius born November 22. Dicember 1. The Pathfinder. There's something no one tells you about being a Sagittarius, born in the early days of the sign. You carry a restlessness in your spirit that's not always easy to explain. You've always been the one scanning the horizon, chasing what feels just out of reach. You've walked through life with the sense that you're meant for something more, that there's a mission hidden in the distance, waiting for you to arrive. But lately, it feels like the road has split into two. Maybe you're standing at a crossroads right now, torn between staying in something familiar or leaping towards something uncertain. On the outside, you might seem composed. You're still doing the work, meeting deadlines, fulfilling your roles. But inside, there's tension, a quiet sense of, is this still right for me? You've carried a dream for so long, a project, a vision, a purpose, but it's starting to feel heavier than it used to. The flame that once fueled it has dulled, and part of you is wondering if it's time to let it go. And that's when the child appears. It won't be dramatic. It might be during a mundane moment, walking past a playground, sitting at a coffee shop, waiting in line at the store. You won't even notice them at first. But then, your eyes meet, and something in their gaze stops time. It's not that they know you, but it will feel like they remember something about you that you've forgotten. And then, out of nowhere, they say something. Just a line. It could be silly, out of context, or seemingly meaningless. But it hits you like lightning, because in that moment, it's like the universe is speaking through them, reminding you why you began this journey in the first place. You'll feel your heart ache not with sadness, but with recognition. Because you haven't really given up. You've just been waiting for a sign. And now, here it is, delivered not by an expert or mentor or loud breakthrough, but by a child pure, spontaneous, and completely free of expectation. Their innocence becomes your mirror. Their presence becomes your compass. From an astrological lens, this moment isn't random. Jupiter, your ruling planet, is forming a rare and powerful conjunction with the North Node, the celestial point that governs soul purpose and destined direction. This transit doesn't just bring opportunities, it activates awakening. And for you, it brings a question so powerful it can change everything. Will you trust your original vision, even when the world around you doesn't understand it yet? Because deep down, you know you don't need everyone's approval. You don't need confirmation. What you need is to remember why you started. To remember that when you first had this dream, it wasn't about being impressive. It was about being aligned with your truth, with your spirit, with your fire. This child, this chance encounter, may not realize it, but they just gave you the one thing you couldn't give yourself lately. Permission. Permission to keep going. Permission to believe again. Permission to choose the road that might not make sense to others, but feels like home to you. And maybe, just maybe, that was the whole point. So before you let the moment pass you by, pause. Let your mind drift back to the version of you who once said yes, without needing a reason. The one who followed sparks instead of maps. The one who didn't need a finish line to feel worthy of the race. That version of you still exists, and they're waiting for you at the next fork in the road. If this speaks to something you've been quietly feeling, don't keep it inside. Comment below, "I choose to walk my soul's path," as a declaration, a reminder, a commitment to yourself. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because this is only the beginning of the road back to you. Now take a breath. The path is clearing. And this time, you're walking it not to be seen but to remember who you've always been. Part 3. For Sagittarius born. December 2. Dicember 11. The Vision Keeper. You were born carrying something most people can't see: a vision. Not just of your own life, but of the world as it could be. Since childhood, your heart has always been just a little too wide. Your questions a little too deep. Your dreams far too big to fit inside the neat, narrow boxes the world kept trying to hand you. You were the one who believed in things others dismissed. You saw beauty where others saw risk. You looked at the impossible and thought, "Why not me?" You were never just living for survival, you were chasing meaning. But somewhere between then and now, something shifted. Maybe it was the slow erosion of disbelief comments that felt small but pierced sharp. The way people laughed when you spoke of things they couldn't comprehend. They called you dreamy, unrealistic. They told you to be practical, to be responsible, to stop reaching for stars that didn't belong to this world. And out of love or exhaustion, or simply to be understood, you slowly stopped reaching. You didn't kill the dream. You just set it aside, folded it quietly, respectfully, like a letter you weren't sure would ever be delivered. You moved on. You did the right things. You built a life that made sense. But some nights in the quiet moments between responsibility and rest, You could still feel it flickering. That ache, that whisper, that feeling like something in you was meant for more than checklists and compromise. And then, the child appears. It won't be some grand cinematic moment. It'll be almost unnoticeable at first. Maybe you're out walking, or standing in a store, or sitting somewhere in silence, when a child nearby says something utterly random, entirely innocent, and it hits you like a tidal wave, because their words silly, playful, filled with wonder, are exactly what you used to say. Not just what you said, but what you believed. It's as if, in that one sentence, your entire forgotten self rushes back to the surface. The one who used to look up at the stars and feel at home. The one who thought magic wasn't something made up. It was something we were meant to live by. The one who believed in signs, synchronicities, and the deep pull of a calling. That child, without knowing it, becomes the voice of the version of you that never stopped believing, only went quiet, waiting for the right moment to speak again. Astrologically, this isn't just a coincidence. Jupiter, your ruling planet, the planet of expansion, meaning, and soul truth, is currently forming a rare and harmonious trine with Neptune, the planet of dreams, spirituality, and divine intuition. When these two meet, they don't just open doors, they dissolve walls. You begin to see beyond what is and into what could be, with a clarity that feels less like logic and more like remembering. You don't just imagine your dream again, you feel it. And this time, it's different, because now you have the wisdom, the experience, and the grounding to bring it to life in ways you couldn't before. That child didn't arrive by accident. They are a living message, a mirror, a spark sent to awaken the sleeping light inside you. And their innocence reminds you of the one thing you've almost forgotten, that your vision is still alive, that it matters, and that no one, not criticism, not time, not disappointment, can take away a dream that you were born to protect. That's the thing about soul visions. They don't fade. They wait. They evolve. They wait for you to come home to them, not with naive hope, but with conscious faith. So don't rush past this moment. Don't dismiss it as coincidence. Feel it. Let it sink in. Let your body remember what it feels like to carry a vision, not for applause, but because it burns inside you, like a sacred flame. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need approval. All you need is that one quiet decision to say, I still believe, and I will begin again. If your heart feels even slightly awakened, leave a comment that says, I will protect my vision. Let that sentence be your vow, your anchor, your return. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, not just to follow along, but to stay connected to this version of yourself who dares to believe again, because the dream never died. It was only waiting for you to believe you're still the one meant to bring it to life. Part 4. For Sagittarius born December 12, December 21. The fire warrior. You've always been the strong one. The one others lean on. The one who says, I've got this, even when you're not sure how you'll carry it all. Over time, you've stepped into roles that demanded your fire for your family, your work, your community. And because you love deeply, you gave it willingly. Again and again. Not because it was easy, but because some part of you believed it was your job to hold the world together, to be the light when others couldn't find theirs, to keep moving, even when your own legs were tired. But lately, something has shifted. The fire is still there, but it's quieter, heavier. You smile, but it doesn't always reach your eyes. You still show up, You always do, but somewhere beneath the surface, you've started to feel dimmed, like you're living from effort instead of joy. Like the flame that once danced wildly now flickers behind layers of responsibility. You've done everything right, but there's a quiet voice inside that keeps whispering, "What about me?" And then, in the middle of a day like any other, you'll meet a child. Maybe they're not even talking to you. Maybe you're just watching them from across the street, or overhearing them in a cafe, or crossing paths for a brief moment. But their energy will cut through everything. The way they laugh, the way they run without hesitation, the way they say what they think without filtering themselves. It'll hit you like a breeze through a window you didn't know was open, because that child free, wild, unapologetically alive, is who you used to be, before the weight, before the pressure, before the world convinced you that responsibility and freedom couldn't coexist. In that moment, you'll feel something in your chest crack open. A memory will rise, not a specific one, but a feeling. The way your soul used to soar when you acted on instinct. The way your laugh used to echo when you weren't trying to be enough for anyone. The way you once believed that life wasn't just about holding it together. It was about living fully, boldly, and on fire. Astrologically, this moment is happening for a reason. Your ruling planet, Jupiter, is currently in a tense square with Saturn, the planet of structure, responsibility, and discipline. This alignment brings a spiritual tug-of-war between expansion and contraction, between duty and desire. It's a cosmic reminder that not everything you carry is yours to hold. That sometimes, the bravest thing a fire warrior can do is put something down. You don't have to abandon your commitments to reclaim your fire. You just have to stop believing that your light only matters when it's useful to others. You were never meant to be a dull version of yourself, just to keep everyone else comfortable. You were born to burn brightly, not recklessly, but truthfully. And that truth doesn't require permission. That child, whether they say something simple or just look at you with eyes full of mischief and wonder, comes as a messenger. Not to teach you anything new, but to remind you of what you already knew. You were not born to be contained. You were born to burn. Let that truth rise. Let it move through you. Let it shake off the weight of expectations that were never yours to carry. And let your fire, your joy, your spark, your raw, unpolished vitality come back to the surface. Not for anyone else, just for you. Because when you reclaim that part of yourself, everything else starts to realign. Not from force, but from truth. You become magnetic again, centered, whole, and the world around you begins to reflect that wholeness back. So if your soul feels seen by these words, if some part of you is whispering, "This is me," don't push it away. Leave a comment below that says, "I release what dims my fire." Let it be your signal to the universe, to yourself, to the parts of you that have been waiting patiently to return. And subscribe if you haven't yet. Because this isn't just a video, it's a journey back to your most radiant self. Now, take a breath. The fire's still there, and it's finally time to let it burn. Part 5. The final invitation. Sagittarius's sacred fire returns. You are not lost. You are only resting. The universe didn't send this child to reopen your wounds. It sent them to hand you a key that unlocks the sacred space inside you that you may have forgotten, but never lost. A sanctuary of light, a place beyond logic, beyond fear, beyond roles. The part of you that remembers why you were born with this fire in the first place. Everything you've just felt, the awakening, the stirring, the quiet ache rising through memory, is not happening randomly. It's alignment, divine timing, a sacred invitation. Right now, Mercury is moving direct, bringing clarity, expression, and truth back into flow. And at the same time, Jupiter, your ruling planet, is making its way back toward your home sign, activating your core purpose, your original frequency, your soul's contract. These aren't just planetary events. These are calls, gentle knocks from the universe, asking you, will you choose yourself, even if the world doesn't understand you yet? Will you be bold enough to live your truth, even if no one claps for it at first? Will you carry your fire with pride, even if others are afraid of its heat? Because the truth is, Sagittarius, you've never been ordinary. You weren't meant to blend in. You weren't designed for small boxes, quiet dreams, or a life that runs on repeat. You are here to stretch boundaries, to awaken souls, to remind others through your living, breathing example that life is meant to be felt, not just survived. That vision is meant to be lived, not just planned. And that the fire inside you isn't a flaw, it's your compass. But like any sacred power, it requires choice, reclamation, a moment of saying, I remember who I am, and I'm ready to stop hiding it. You've been carrying responsibilities, wounds, expectations, and doubts like armor. But now, it's time to take that armor off. Not to be exposed, but to be real. To be you, fully, wildly, unapologetically. Let the past be a chapter. Let the detours be part of the map. And let this moment, this mysterious cosmic encounter, be the bridge that brings you home to yourself. Because here's what you need to know. You're not broken. You're not behind. And you're definitely not lost. You were only resting. You were only gathering strength. You were only waiting for the moment when you could finally say yes. Not to the world's expectations, but to your soul's call. This is that moment. This is your invitation. And the fire is waiting. So if something inside you is whispering, it's time, don't let that voice fade again. Don't let this just be another video you scroll past and forget. Let it be the moment you decide, this is where I begin again. Leave a comment below that says, I am ready. Not for anyone else, but for you. And if you haven't already, subscribe now because the universe is just getting started with you. What's ahead isn't a return to who you were. It's the revelation of who you've always been. Take a deep breath. Feel your fire. Step forward. The sacred path is open, and maybe now you understand what this journey was always meant to do. It wasn't just about astrology. It wasn't just about predictions. It was a mirror one that helped you remember the parts of yourself that were never truly gone, only waiting. You see, the child in this story wasn't sent to teach you anything new. They came to help you remember the instinct, the joy, the vision, and the sacred fire that has always lived inside you. They reminded you that you don't need to earn your right to shine. You were born radiant, and the only permission you ever needed was your own. So what now? Now, you carry this awareness into your life, into the decisions you've been putting off, into the dreams you've shelved, into the boundaries you've been afraid to set. Let this be the moment you stop apologizing for the size of your light and start living like someone who remembers where they came from. The truth is, you never stopped being the visionary, the warrior, the pathfinder. You just needed a reason to return. And today, you found one. If this message touched you, or brought something to life in you, let me know in the comments. What part of your fire are you ready to reclaim? And if you'd like to support this journey, feel free to tap the Super Thanks button. It helps us keep creating content that speaks to your soul, not just your screen. Before you go, I invite you to keep walking with us. There's a video appearing on screen right now. It's another message the universe may be holding just for you. Or you can choose from one of the suggested videos beside this one. Whichever speaks to your heart first. Trust it. That's how intuition works. Sagittarius, you were never meant to be anything less than wild, free, and on fire. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next journey. Until then, keep the fire alive. Always.